Yeah, good evening, everybody. Dr. Yakubu here from Intelinavis Careers, and I'm welcoming you to another session together in our Thursday sessions. Our Thursday sessions is mainly focused on collaborative tools, project review meetings, and also some bite-sized conversations and trainings on business analysis and IT project management. And the first topic we're considering for this January cohort is going to be Agile methodology. So we're starting with a use case. So the next slide I'm going to show you is a, a project. So the point is, in this training for the next 1 hour, before we'll be reviewing the different stuffs that the project teams have been working on during this sprint, I'm going to give you like the end. So we want to work with the end in view into this class. So what have I got? Can somebody confirm that you can see my screen very quickly, please?
Yes, I can see your question.
Perfect, perfect. So
Yes,
what have we
please.
got here? What we have here is this. Here is a company. This is a care company or a care home. Yeah. And the name is Navis Care. So Navis Care as an establishment, they want to digitize their operation and they want to produce this Navis Care app. So that's a business case. So our care home aims to enhance operational efficiency, staff satisfaction by automating the process of shift allocation. Now we're proposing the development of a user-friendly mobile app. And this app is going to allow the different staff to be able to book C shift, select shift, book shift as it becomes available. And that's the big high level overview of what this is intended to achieve. Now, the objective is that we'll be able to automate, optimize staff shift allocation, selection, monitor these things as well. And all of these are the benefits. Sorry, this is a benefit, and all of these are the key features it should have. User authentication, shift visibility, booking system notifications, availability management, reporting, data analysis to be able to study the efficiency or the performance of this mobile app. So this is the problem. This is the case statement. So this is what we're starting with. Remember, I said today we're discussing agile methodology. Now we've got this specific problem or this specific contract, as it were. So we have got this. What we're discussing today, I want you to always keep your mind at this, that when I say deliverable, when I say project, when I say product, this is the product. Okay? So we can look at this thing as per it's a project we are working on, but this is a specific product that will be delivered at the end of the day. So this is the product we'll be talking about in the whole of today's session. How do we approach this? Now, we're getting gradually to today's class. We have two general methods, two general approach in this journey. And this journey is generally referred to as software development life cycle. Software development life cycle. Two broad approaches. Number one, we've got this waterfall method. Now, what waterfall means is that you're doing everything linearly. You do one thing, you finish. You come to another, you finish. You come to another, you finish. And what that means is this. For the company that has given us this job, Naviscare, we're going to say, yes, we deliver this job. How long? 6 months we deliver this job. Now, Naviscare goes to sleep while we start working. We're going to work month 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And then we go to Naviscare and hand them over their products. So we started with the requirement with Naviscare, we designed, we developed, we did the test, we deploy it, and then we can be maintaining it, and then we hand it over to them. So that is waterfall. However, over time, IT sector have realized that there are disadvantages in operating some certain projects or products using this approach. And that's why a lot of discussion right now is going to be agile, agile, agile. And if you've been discussing with people that are working in IT space, you must have had this buzzword a lot. Agile, agile. That's why today the first thing we want to discuss is really what is agile. Really, what does it mean? And what does it compare with? And that is why first thing I compared it with this waterfall. where you're going to deliver everything you want to do, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and then you hand it over to the person. The problem is this: while you started working month 1, month 2, something might have changed in the market that made that plan you had not to be good enough, or to be obsolete, or something might have evolved that you want to incorporate into the design. But the problem is you're already in the test phase, and it becomes difficult for you to come back to the design and change it. Well, there's these requirements, key features that you've given when you started, but you've come to realize that there's something very, very important here: holiday bookings. You want people to be able to book their holiday using this mobile app. Now you come here, but you say, hang on a moment, we've given all of the requirements, and it becomes almost impossible for you to go back to add to the requirement and ensure that you have everything designed. So that is the waterfall on one hand. Now, what is Agile? Agile is what we're discussing today, and that is the approach that lots of operations, lots of products in this sector deal with. Agile. When we start looking into the job market in a moment, you will see what we're discussing. Lots of job that you're going to see, they would specify Agile. Somebody that has worked or knows how to work using the Agile methodology, using the Agile approach, Agile framework. Sometimes they phrase it differently. So that is why we're discussing on Agile today. But I said to myself, before we discuss Agile, I need to bring to compare what is this waterfall, what is this Agile, how do they compare with each other, so you can get the idea of every discussion today. Now, what is Agile project management? Now, Agile project management is a process that we use to manage our project in the IT sector. And it involves, number one, constant collaboration. And this collaboration within the development team as well as the customer. Now, the customer here is Naviscare. While in the first case, Naviscare gives you the job, they go to sleep, and then in 6 months' time, you deliver a product. But in this case, you have continuous interaction with Naviscare during the process of development. And then you're working in iterations, what we call sprints, as we'll see in a moment. So you're working in a form of loop. So if you look at this is a loop. Number one, requirements, you design, you develop, you test, you deploy, you review, you launch, then you start again. So this is how it goes. You don't do everything before you launch. No. You do a bit, let it go. You do another bit, you let it go. Now, I appreciate the fact that lots of us in this class, we've been through uni, and you know exactly how you write your thesis. I'm a lecturer, and then I know many of us here also were in the uni, and we know how this works. Now, let me go to the university and explain Agile and waterfall. Imagine you're writing your master's thesis, and the topic of your thesis is exploring the power sector in Nigeria, or doing a comparative analysis between the UK and Nigeria in power supply. And then you start. Your project is going to take 4 months. You have a meeting with your supervisor, then you go away, and in 4 months' time, from January till April, you come and you submit. You just submit everything to your supervisor. I finish my project. Is that the way you do your work? But you agree with me that in the uni, what you do is you have project meeting. You start discussing with your supervisor. 2 weeks' time, you come again, you have another conversation with your supervisor. Your supervisor will be like, go work on chapter 1. And after chapter 1, let me have a look at chapter 1. And the supervisor is going to sign. Yes, chapter 1 approved. Go to chapter 2. And you continue working in chapter 2. Chapter 2 approved. Your supervisor will be like, go work on chapter 3. And while you're on chapter 3, something connects to chapter 1. And you'll be like, I need to go and change what I did in chapter 1. Yes, you go to chapter 1, you flip through chapter 1, you go and change something in chapter 1. Chapter 4, 5, 6. And at chapter 6, you realize that when you did your literature review in chapter 2, something needs to change. Or it's a PhD. It's a journey of 3 to 4 years. While you are doing your work, lots of more recent work has been published. Now, that's your research design you started with. You realize some things are becoming obsolete or some things are no longer novel. You go back again to what you did 2 years ago when you started your PhD program. You rework that. You continuously rework that until the final phase. You don't start like, I see my supervisor here and I submit here. That's waterfall. But you will notice that this is how it works. I want you to use that idea of the way you do your thesis to see agile and waterfall. So if we're speaking in IT space and you think agile means something a little bit complicated, think about when you did your thesis, you were always reviewing with your project supervisor, maybe every two weeks, every 3 weeks, or every 1 month. Depends on you and the supervisory team. That is what we're discussing today as agile project management methodology, where there is constant collaboration between you and your supervisory team. And then you're working in iterations. You deliver chapter 1, you deliver chapter 2. It works up the basis that the project can be continuously improved as you're working with your supervisor. Not you just go from day one, come back after 4 months to submit a complete thesis. So throughout the whole process, there's continuous improvement. And then you can easily adapt to change because you've just done to chapter 3 and your supervisor will be like, hang on a moment, your objectives, you need to add one objective to what you've got 3 objectives, put another one, there's going to be 4 objectives. You can easily change that. But if it was waterfall, you come with everything after 4 months and your supervisor say you need to change, you hang on, it's just 1 week to the deadline. I can't do this, I can't do that, it's just 1 week, there's going to be problem, I can't meet up anymore, and you're in trouble. But if you're working in this style, he said this to you like 2 months into the work, you can still go back, rework things, continuously develop. That is the way I want you to see agile and waterfall methodology. If you're with me, can I see a message in the chat and let me know? Just type 777 if you get what I mean when I'm comparing agile and waterfall methodology. Yes, thank you, Ines. I see the thumbs up from Ines. So that's a confirmation that you're with me. Any other person confirming you're with me? Oh, yes, Princess, thank you. Matthew, thank you very much. Okay, that's good to know. So we are together here now. Now let's
Sorry, I'm
progress.
trying to type, but I'm unable to. I don't know why.
You should be able because some other persons are able to type actually. Okay, but no worries. I think you've managed to. That's perfect. So this is agile. This is agile. And in discussing the history of agile, first launched in 2001, when about 17 technologies, they drafted what they call the Agile Manifesto. They wrote 4 major principles of agile project management that you follow. And what are they? Number 1, individuals and interactions. You work in your team, interacting together, not only amongst yourself that are delivering the project, you also interact even with the customer. That's Navis Care Home in this instance. What we want right now is a working software. That's what we need. It's not just about lots of documentation, lots of stories. Whilst the documentation could be excellent, but our priority is we want something that is working. Remember, by working software, I mean the app that we want to use in Navis Care Home. Customer collaboration. You'll be collaborating with the people, maybe the manager or whoever from Navis Care Home. You'll be meeting from time to time and responding to time. These are what we call the 4 key values in this case. So I've explained this now. You work in iterations, makes it easy for Navis Care to be able to come and maybe effect some changes to the requirement that they've given to you before, and they can say 1 or 2 things, say another one. And the main thing here is that you want something that is working, and you do lots of customer collaboration. You're not so rigid like this is what we started in the beginning and this is what it must be. There's that level of flexibility. Always think about when you did your thesis, undergrad or master's thesis, or even PhD, 4 years PhD. Imagine when you started and this was the aim, these were the objectives. Think about how these things change. Think about how these things evolve. You see, that's exactly what we're discussing today about the Agile methodology. And Agile methodology right now is the most popular approach to project management because of its flexibility and its adaptability to change, and the fact that you're carrying the customer along as you are doing the design, as you're working with it. Think about you're doing your project and your supervisor and you're working closely together, giving feedback, giving feedback. When you complete the job, the supervisor will not even spend lots of time reading from chapter 1. Why? Because he read it 2 months ago and he has approved it. Chapter 2, he already has given the tick mark for chapter 2, chapter 3, chapter 4. So when you submit everything in 6 months' time, it won't spend so much time, you know? That's exactly what we're discussing today. So there's rapid progress when you work like this, and also customer and stakeholder alignment. So you be on the same page and there will be continuous improvement. This is Agile. Now, there are 12 principles behind the Agile Manifesto, which everything I've said so far is all exemplified here. So our highest priority is to satisfy the customer through early and continuous delivery of valuable product or software. In this case, the app. So the idea is this, think about it. Waterfall, you give the company to deliver this app, and in 6 months' time, they come with the app. But Agile, in 1 month time, the app is ready. You've given them 6 key features that you want to be in the app, but 6 of them are not ready. But the beauty of it all is that in 1 month time, at least 2 of them are ready and you've started using it. Whereas in waterfall, you have to wait till everything is ready. So that's the ideal about working in this agile methodology. Okay? So then you can have changes, obviously. You deliver working software or working product frequently. Instead of waiting 6 months before you give Naviscare what they require, you give them frequent ones and different features comes out. Maybe a couple of weeks or a couple of months, you give them something. You update it. Version 1.1, 1.0, 1.01, 1.02, 1. Like that. You keep giving out these things, and as you are using it, you're studying it, you're getting feedback, you are improving, and it's getting better and better and better. That's exactly what we're discussing when we talk about agile methodology. Okay, look at the key features when we discuss agile now. In agile methodology, agile approach of doing this, there are some key methodologies involved. So agile, some people will call it and say it's a framework, it's an approach. And then the methodologies, when we're working in agile now, we have what we call Scrum and Kanban are the popular one. We have Lean and some other ones as well, but I will speak tonight only about Scrum and Kanban. Yeah, so what happens is this. When we started, we had a vision. This is what we're going to do. We're going to design this app for Naviscare, and it's going to have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 features. Key features are what it's going to have. Then you now create what we call user stories. So I'll give you explanation about this in some future slides. We have what we call epics, we have what we call the user stories, and then you have what we call product backlog. So that's all the different stuff you are going to do for the project, for the product, all the different stuff you're going to do. You plan all of them, put everything together. Now, you come here, there's what we call sprint planning. Sprint, you want to start work. Think about when you run a race and you call it a sprint. So the sprint is a journey that happens in a loop. So you want to start your first movement. I'll give you a more definitive definition in a moment, but think about the sprint as you want to start the first movement, okay? You do what we call sprint planning. Then you select all the different things you want to do for that time. It could be 2 weeks, could be 3 weeks, could be 4 weeks. You now select all that you are going to do. Here you might have up to 20 stuffs you would do, 30 stuffs you would do. Now you select only 5 or select only 8 that you're going to do. Yeah? So you put all of these ones as what you want to do in this sprint. Then you start the journey. Remember the loop system. You start all of the stuffs you want to do, everything you want to do in this period. And while you're working for 2 weeks or 3 weeks or 4 weeks, to be able to complete some amount of task, you'll be meeting every day. And every day when you meet, we'll call it daily scrum. So it's daily scrum meeting for like maybe 15 minutes. You have conversations around what you've done before, what you want to do, what are the problems that you're facing. And then you work and work and work. When you've completed that stuff, it might be that it's only login that you're working on in this sprint. Then you finish that functionality. You go to Naviscare. Hey, Naviscare, we've got the app right now. You can log in, you can register your staff, and they can start playing with the app. But right now, they cannot book. But the only thing they can do, if they can register, you can authenticate them. And they start using that feature you've given them in 3 weeks or 4 weeks' time. Then you go back again. You review what you've done, think about it, sit in a round table. How did we work? Did we do better? Did we do well? Hang on a moment, there's something we didn't do well. Let's think about this. You have all of those discussions. What worked well? What didn't work well? What can we improve? Then you come back here. You start again. You pick some of the stuff you want to do and say, now we've done authentication. We've given them here. We have a star. Now let's come back here. Let's do shift booking. You start again. You select all of them. Now you start the sprint. You work on booking. Remember, every day you're meeting for your daily scrum. You finish that, you hand it over. Now they've got two features. You just get a notification, update your app, and immediately you update the app that could only do authentication, now you can begin to see shift. You come back again, review, think about all that you've done, pick another value, and then you come, you do the work again. So this is what we call working in sprint. So Scrum is one of the most popular implementation methods or methodology for Agile. So it's a framework that helps teams to work together within a time-boxed period called sprint. So this is a time-boxed period. This is a sprint. A sprint is the period that you're working. So you're going to deliver this job in, or this feature, okay, this part of the job in 2 weeks. This is what you want to accomplish. That sprint, when you start working specifically on that one, that is sprint. When you finish that, you drop it, you pick another one, you continue like that. That's what we call Agile. Okay, Scrum, as you've seen now. Now there are some key people in this team. Number one is a product owner. Now, the product owner is the expert that represents the stakeholder and is the voice of the customer. So this guy kind of knows what the customer wants. So this guy kind of knows exactly what we need to give to Naviscare. And he's the product owner driving the activity. Make sure we work according to the design. Now, this guy is not only him, there are a couple of them here in this development team. So they are the one really doing all of the coding, doing all of the codes, doing all of the codes. And this is a Scrum Master. So the Scrum Master is a one that, like what we call moderator or MC. When you have that Scrum meeting every morning, there's a person trying to coordinate, trying to make sure that everything is going on fine. Are there any bottlenecks? Are there any problem, any bureaucracy, anything that is making you not to be able to do the work? Why it's not working? And also keeps the team in line, working with the Agile Scrum approach to what they are doing. So these are the guys that work in the team. And lots of more people are here. This is not a definitive team arrangement. It all depends on how it's going to be, because in this whole loop, in some organizations or in some team, you have the data analyst, you have the business analyst, you have all of the US, UI guys, you have the security guys, you have the data engineers. They all are working. It all depends on the specific product that you're doing at the moment. And in all of these stories, one person you can't do without in this whole loop is the business analyst. because the business analyst is the one that knows exactly what we want to do for our client and try to communicate these things in such a way that the technical people will understand what the BA is saying. The non-technical people will equally understand what the BA is saying. So the BA tends to do a very bridging job in the whole of this loop story. The data analyst gets a lot busy when the product is already out, starts gathering different data. Data like, we've released the first iteration, how many people downloaded it? Now, after download, how many people deleted it? Now, people have started giving us rating on Google App and App Store. What's our rating like? Or people are saying this app is shit, this app doesn't make sense. The data analysis is capturing all of those data, all of those sentiment, and feeding the team with the pain point of the people. And like the people, they are not happy here, or they are happy here, or how many people try to log in and they are unable to log in. You see, the data analyst is now capturing all of the data from the user side, bringing it to the development team or bringing it to the entire family, the entire big team, and let them know where we have troubles and what we need to do. That is not just by what the client said originally, the requirements originally, but now bringing lots of customer data feedback from the users now. The users now getting some data from them to improve what the entire Scrum team is doing. And in achieving this, in achieving all of these things, I thought to bring this slide to say to you that in doing this thing, one key word that must be there is this word collaboration. So one thing you need to learn, and one thing we'll always emphasize here, is you need to really master the art of collaborating. To work together to achieve a common goal is the key here. So at the core of all of these different individuals and different team, they need to work in sync, collaboration. It's an integrated effort to be able to achieve this. And in doing this, we have different digital platforms that we use for collaboration, for document sharing, for real-time messaging. Last time I said to the people training, I said before now, when you want to send messages, it's always email, email, email that you need to download, review, and all of that. Things have changed now that instead of just sending emails every time, we now work collaboratively on the cloud. Either you're using Google Sheets or you are doing it in Microsoft 365. So you can work collaboratively, and anything you're changing, another person seals it in real time. What else again about real-time communication? Instead of like you're in this organization now, you have a question. You don't know who can answer your question, and we are up to 20. You send to the first person, no answer. Second person, no answer. You might be discouraged. But what happens right now is you drop it in the forum. That is how communication is done in organizations in today. Either they are using Slack, they are using Team, they are using Telegram or some other communication channel for real-time communication. So as you drop the message, everybody sees it, and whoever knows the answer gives you the answer immediately. Document sharing. You begin to see using stuff like SharePoint, OneDrive, just name it, a whole lot like that. Technical documentation, Confluence. The reason is because we all have the source of this data. We all can see all of these stuff that is being shared there. So document sharing is open, is accessible, transparent for all to see, irrespective of geography, of location, of time zone, or whatever. We all are working together. Okay? And shared resources, we're collaborating. If you're writing codes, in our program here, we're not going to be writing too much of codes, but we're going to do some code when we do SQL as well as Python. And then in Power BI as well, when we do DAX, there will still be some syntax we need to write there. Now, you store all of these things on GitHub or GitLab, depends on what your organizations are using. So any other person can go there and see the code that you're using. Databases, instead of having the data in your own laptop, is there in the database where any person can go there, access the database, download the data, and do what they want to do. So it ensures consistency. And also we can all of us can work with very minimal bottleneck. Okay, so these are the things I want us to know in that regard. So this is a typical work day. So when I go to work, if you're working in any IT organization as a data analyst, as a data engineer, or maybe a business analyst, a product owner, this will be more like a typical day for you, where you join meetings and you're collaborating across different groups, across different teams, and somebody brings a whiteboard and you start collaborating. Maybe there's Miro today, there's Figma tomorrow, there's whiteboard the other day, and then everybody trying to listen and contribute, and another person sharing slides and stuff like that. This is what's happening now. Before now, people could do these things in the office, but during coronavirus, digitization was really quadrupled during coronavirus, that organizations now really succeed, excel even beyond what they were doing in the office when they work collaboratively across different geographies, different time zones. You can see people in their houses, maybe some in their own office. All of these guys, they are in one office together joining the meeting. This one might be in a library, this one might be in the kitchen or wherever. The most important thing is that we're delivering on the job. And that's why if you look at this training we're doing it as well online, because everything you do in the course of the training, you're equally learning what you will do when you get on the job. If you can attend training and grab everything or almost everything when you attend the training remotely, it means you already know what it means to work remotely. You'll be working on projects remotely. Now you're collaborating in real-time messaging using Telegram. Now, all of these things are stuff that are very important in the current world of work. Now, I want to start defining some terms that I've used before. Number one, product backlog. What is a product backlog? This is a list of all the desired features for Navi's Care Home app. So before each sprint, the product owner is going to prioritize and present in the sprint planning meeting. So we have all of them, but these are the ones we want to do for the next 2 weeks, the next 3 weeks, the next 4 weeks. After now, when you will listen to the presentation from the guys, they are going to show you their own stuff as well, how they collaborate, the different stuff they want to do, their epic, their different tasks that they want to do for each of the sprint. Everything I'm saying is going to come to life where you see the real presentations that will be made when I finish this talk. So the team will decide on the work that they can complete within this sprint, 2 weeks or 4 weeks, and then the rest will stay in the backlog. So they take the ones they want to do, and then they start working on it. Then every day, we'll have the daily Scrum meetings, about 15 minutes stand-up meeting. Shouldn't be more than this. Each person is going to say, what did you do yesterday? What are you going to do today? Are there any blockers? Are there any impediments? Are there any bottlenecks that will make you not to do what you plan to do today? So you can get the support, the help, or the pushbacks for you to achieve that. That is what we call daily Scrum meetings. If you've worked in an engineering organization where we talk about toolbox meeting, where we discuss HSE, if you're working in the field, you always need to do this toolbox meeting where the HSE officer tells you about safety, life-saving rules before you get on the field. Now there's backlog refinement. At the end of each sprint, the team and the product owner will ensure that the product backlog is ready for the next sprint. Now, there may be some tasks that you actually didn't finish in the previous one. You can clearly move it to this one. I mean, it's not like you must finish it. It depends on what happens. And then the sprint review meeting. You want to look at what you've done, think retrospectively. And then there can be like a demo where you could look, these are the things that worked well. Let's do a demo, use case, best practice conversations, and stuffs in that direction. we've discussed Agile, Scrum. Now the other one is Agile, Kanban methodology. Now, the main thing about Kanban is that it's got this kind of visualization where you can see what you want to do, what you are doing, what maybe is being tested or is being QA, depends on how you work and what you've completed. So this is Kanban. So this is another framework. And this was invented by Toyota, where I think Japanese Kanban means billboard or something. Today in the presentation, you're going to see the Kanban board for the guys on what they are working, what they've done, and how they are progressing, what they've completed. They are going to show all of these things for everybody to see today. So this is how we work. We work in sprints. This is actually, I think this should be sprint 3 on the project. This should be sprint 3 week 1 because last week was sprint 2 week 2 completed. So, but the project manager for the guys is going to correct me if I'm wrong when they start the presentation. So this is Kanban methodology for you. So we've talked about the Scrum, and now we've discussed Kanban as well. Let's talk about terminologies, buzzwords, things you need to know, things that should just be at your fingertips. Number 1, sprint. So that's a time-boxed event, 1 to 4 weeks, in which the entire team, they focus on a sprint goal, what they want to achieve, what they set out to achieve for that sprint. Think about your project once again. A sprint is that time box of you need to see your supervisor in another 4 weeks. So you go for this sprint, 4 weeks. And what I'm working in this 4 weeks is that my main goal, only my goal is chapter 3 must be completed. So that is your goal for that sprint. So that is a sprint. And an iteration just means an instance of a repeated process. That's iteration. If you do numerical simulation, you know that you do stuff in iteration. It's iterating. You're doing the same thing in a loop. You come back again, you come back again. So for one instance of that process, it's called an iteration. In most cases, we use sprint and iteration interchangeably, but sometimes also they might not mean 100% the same thing, but myself inclusive, I also use them interchangeably, to be honest. What's an epic? An epic is a large body of work that you want to do, and you're going to break it down into smaller tasks. So the big one is an epic. Now think about an epic in your project as that chapter 3. Now to be able to do chapter 3, you need to break it down. It's going to be chapter 3 is maybe methodology. You want to think, is it quantitative? Is it qualitative? Is it questionnaire? And that's why you're going to have 3.1, 3.2, 3.3. Sometimes you're going to have 3.3.1, 3.3.2, 3.3.3. Now, what am I trying to say? That big chapter 3 is an epic. Now, the user story are all these different tasks that you're not using to achieve all the entire epic. So these are the different tasks. Now, user story is what I will show you once again. It's a way you describe the feature in that app or the software you're trying to do. That user story sometimes is also tied to the task that you want to do to be able to achieve that. I spoke about story points 2 weeks ago. Story points are just units of measure that you use to estimate the amount of effort that is required to be able to finish a given piece of work. So just think about the number 3 is smaller than 5. So if I give a story point of 5, it means it requires lots more effort to do that than the one that I put 3. Acceptance criteria means what would be like the answer to the question. That's acceptance criteria. Think about it like that. So when we talk about acceptance criteria, it means the conditions that must be satisfied for the product or for the task, for that user story or the feature to say that, yes, you have completed this and it is accepted. So it's an increment. You've done something on top of it. So what condition is it? So it's like saying you're answering an exam question. There is a marking scheme somewhere. So that's where we're going to accept the answer you've given to us. Then I like this very well. Minimum viable product. I like this. And what this means is a version of the product with just enough features to be usable by your customers. They can now provide feedback for future product development. Everybody, think about waterfall. This stuff is going to be completed in 6 months. The first team are using waterfall. In 6 months, they come with everything that you plan to do from January. They submit it in July. But in Agile, by the end of January or February, you give them one feature and they start using that one. Then they come with some feedback and say something is not working, there's a bug somewhere, I don't like the color, the fonts are too small, or the app is breaking. Then you go back. While you're working on what you want to do, you try to correct those defects. You try to rework them. You try to make it better. This is you working in Agile. Then when you finish that another feature, you send it to them again. Please update your app. We have implemented some security features and we've taken away some of the bugs. They use it again and you get some more feedback. You rework and you continue. And then in 4 months' time, they say there's something that is invoked now in the care sector. And what is invoked in the care sector is that people can apply for COS from the app. And they come to you and say, please, can you put this feature in this app as well? And you go back, you say, even though it was not captured in January, yes, we can do it in May. And in May, you find some time to incorporate that. 6 months' time, this person has delivered their project, waterfall method or waterfall approach. The other team has, say, team A has used waterfall, team B has used Agile. I want you to respond in the chat. Who do you think is going to give a better, functional, more acceptable product after 6 months? Waterfall, A for waterfall, B for Agile. So this shows you get the idea. This shows you get the idea. So you can see the idea about waterfall and Agile. Waterfall is usually good where the process, the features are not likely going to change. Like you are almost sure, you are almost definite of the different stuff that needs to be done. In that case, then we can go the waterfall approach. Just go and sleep and in 6 months I deliver. But because things are evolving very, very quickly, things keep evolving. So that is why Agile is a more welcomed approach. And then we always give out things as minimum viable products. Now, user story. This user story, as I said, is the way you write the features that you want to be implemented. So in Agile framework, user stories follow simple template, very simple. You're going to answer the question, who wants something? What do they want? And why do they want it? So you always put on a crown, put on a hat. So, and that's a persona. Okay? You need to come as a persona and say what you want and why you want it. So for example, if you look at this now, this is as an online gamer, I want to have a multiplayer option so that I can play online with my friends. So this is a user story that the development team will now know how to incorporate this into the development. So I want somebody to type a user story for Navis app, assuming we've started the project for Navis app. Can you follow this pattern and type for me a user story, or unmute yourself and give me a user story for any of the features that's going to be in the app we're designing today? Nobody?
Um, I want to try.
Please go ahead.
It's just me telling you the features I want in
No,
the.
give me as a user story. Yes, go ahead. Any feature, choose any feature you want.
Okay. I want Let me just. I want an AI that I can play with if I don't have anyone to play with the
Okay.
game with.
So you're not gonna say as whatever, maybe as a game user, as a customer, as a this, I want to have an AI feature so that I can do this where my friends are not online, isn't it? Okay, good. Ernest has put something in the chat. As a healthcare worker, that's a persona now. I want to see the available shift so that I can request a shift. You get the point. So that is what you want to be there. Princess says, as a carer, I want an app. No, the app is the big one now. So the feature that you want. So you won't say I want an app because an app is the big umbrella. So I want an app that I can book my holiday without issues. So as a carer, okay, I want to be able to see available holiday slot so that I can book my holidays without issues. So as a carer who wants something, what you want and why you want it. Now, another person says, as the manager, so you see the persona now. You will notice the difference. This is the persona. So she's changed the persona. Before now, we talked about the worker. Now she's changed it to as a manager. I want to be notified whenever a carer cancels a shift. No, Adeola, complete it so that what will happen? So you need to complete it so that what will happen? So that I get a replacement, or so that I can record it against the person, or so that I can do anything. So now you get the idea. Now, yes, so that I can get a replacement. Beautiful. So this is what we call user story. Now, we're going to do some stuff in BA, business analysis, during these evenings. So this is just just like an opening session. This is not the main BA session that I'm talking about, but this is just for you to understand the generality. Now, as a carer, I want to be notified ahead of my shift, like 30 minutes before start of my shift, so that I don't forget, or so that I don't slip away, This is brilliant. All of these are the different features that we want in the app, and that's really, really very helpful. So what we use to monitor when we use this, our Agile methodology, Agile framework, Kanban, you're going to see this in a moment. So this is just a still picture, but you're going to see it in a moment. Now, I'm going to run through in another 5 minutes before presentation starts. Use case, I'm going back to my app. Now, this is the app. In the course of everything that we've discussed, now we want to pretend that we are the development team. All of us here. We have somebody here that is our Scrum Master. We have another person here that is working in development team. Another person is UX, UI. Another person is BA. Another person is data analyst. All of us here, we are in this team. Now let's go to work. The first thing is we want to break it into epics. This is what we want. Big chunk of work. Look at all of the features that we want. Break it into epics. Remember what epics are. Big chunk of the work is called an epic. Number one, user authentication. Number two, shift visibility, booking system, notifications, availability management, and reporting. Our data analysts must be very, very busy on this, reporting to us lots of stuff. So this is the big epics that we want to deal with. Now we're going to break it down, okay? And this will now mean when we can finish one of these epic, we can throw it into the market as a minimum viable product so they can start using it. It's small, but it is useful. That's the idea of MVP. It is small, but it is useful. Number one, user authentication and basic shift display. As soon as we can achieve this, we've been able, in 1 month, we've been able to design this app that you can authenticate your user, and then you can see the different shift. We are going to release it. And all of the carers in Naviscare, they download it and they start using it. They all log into their profile, they authenticate their profile, and they can see all of the shift there. But they can't book, but they can see the shift and ring the office. They can see the shift and maybe send an email, but they cannot book. So this is what we managed to do in 1 month. We're not going to wait till 6 months before we give you everything in one go. No, this is chapter 1 completed. We take it to our supervisor. We look at chapter 1 and it's okay. Brilliant. Chapter 1 is useful. Let's keep this one. Let's move ahead. Then we start working in sprint 2. And in sprint 2, we've been able to do some basic booking functionality and notification system. Amazing. You would notice that we ship this into the market as our next MVP. So whereas at this point we can only see, now we can book. people be like, oh, this is getting better. This is interesting. Everybody's motivated and excited. Now, analytics. We want to be able to start looking at different stuffs, availability management, basic reporting, and all that. We want to be able to start getting data to report. We ship that as well. So you're working in sprints and you're giving one at a time, one at a time. Now, when I talk about user story, look at example of user story. As a staff member, I want to log in securely so that I can access the app. Okay? As an admin, I want to manage user roles and permission. As a staff member, I want to see available shifts categorized by date and roles so that you can obviously book this shift. Now, I like this part because we'll be running lots of data analysis in this program. So as an admin, I want to generate reports on what? Staff utilization, shift coverage, booking trends, whatever you want as the analyst, data analyst, you make it clear. So the development team are going to build the way all of this data will be captured at the back end into the database for you to start doing your analysis. I said we all are members of the team. Somebody here is a project manager. What's your job? Overall project coordination. You're the one planning, communicating. You define the project scope, the goals, the deliverables. You create and manage the timeline, coordinate with stakeholders, monitor and report on project progress. We have a Scrum Master right now. You're facilitating the Scrum process, ensuring that we're following the Agile principles. You're organizing all of these as ceremonies, like the sprint planning, the daily Scrum stand-up, reviews, retrospective, and you are removing all forms of impediments and blockage hindering us from doing our job. We have a product owner, is the one representing the KEOM's interest and defines the product backlog, prioritizing it, what we do, what the development team, so the front end, back end, and all that. And we have these guys that I love very well. Why I love these guys is because in our training, we're not training, our training right now is not focused on these guys, but we're focused on these guys. So after these whole sessions, you should be able to operate as a business analyst, analyze the business process, all of the requirements that you need to be able to develop Navis Care Home app. You translating them into user stories. You gather, you document the requirements, you collaborate with stakeholders to define the scope and ensure that everything is in alignment. Our data analysts here, you need to be able to analyze the data to derive insights for informed decision making. And then in order to achieve that, you're going to define what we call KPIs, key performance indicators. I'll show you that in the next slide as we round up. And then the different metrics that you're using to analyze this app and to know if it is working well. Analyze the user behavior and engagement patterns. Provide data-driven recommendations that the dev team are going to use to improve and to make it better. How many people have logged in? How many people downloaded? How many people deleted? How long did they stay there? How many people gave us 5-star? How many gave us 1-star? What are the comments? Do sentiment analysis and all that. Now, as a data analyst, you begin to do what we call mobile app analytics. For user engagement, we want to say the metrics that we want to count the number of unique user logins. And the key performance indicator there is that we want to increase in the number of logins over time by 15% per quarter. So that you see that's specific what we want to achieve. And what are you going to start tracking? What are you going to start measuring? Track the daily, weekly, and the monthly login trend. So when you are able to measure this, then you can compare if you are meeting the KPI that is set for number of logins. As a data analyst, you want to look at the shift booking rate. And the main thing there is the percentage of available shifts that are booked. It's not like we put stuff there and they are not using it. And we've set a goal, we've set a benchmark, we've set a KPI, a key performance indicator is that we should achieve a booking rate of 75% or higher. As an analyst, you want to gather the data, monitoring the ratio of booking shifts to the total available shifts. It's not like 100 shifts booked, 50 called the office, 50 did it from the app. That's not where we want to be. We want 75% to be via the app and very minimal people ringing the office, so that in the office we can focus on other things. We can start doing some other stuffs. That's the idea here that you're dealing with here as a data analyst. Staff satisfaction. You want to start looking at ratings, shift preference. You can start looking, you notice maybe there's a particular care home that people like to go, there's a particular time people like to work, there's a particular preference, and different other stuffs you can do as the data analyst from all of these data sets that's going to influence the future development of what we're talking about. Communication effectiveness metrics. You can also look at notification, if people are opening the notification or not. When you send notification, send email or whatever, do the staff open it? Data analyst, you make sure that that data is extracted and you are able to tell the management that people are not opening it. Why are they not opening the notification? Shift change acceptance rate. Analyze acceptance trends and refine communication strategies. And you look at the security as well, you can measure stuffs in that direction. User training completion, maybe there are some trainings that people should do in the app. Are people completing these things? So you see, we've looked at the entire journey, software development life cycle, up until when the software is in operation and we start capturing data as data analysts. I hope I've been able to introduce you to the world of Agile methodology and IT analytics. If I've been able to carry you where you should be, let me see some thumbs up in the chat before presentation.